Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the RSPA Retail IT Community Roundtable, the future of our channel and what to do about it. RSPA is North America's largest community of VARs, software developers, vendors, and distributors in the retail, restaurant, and grocery verticals. We're a fit for any organization that's serious about growth in those markets. Many companies have been members for decades, and we frequently add startup tech companies because we accelerate their growth and they see the massive ROI that RSPA membership offers. If you're serious about growth in the retail IT channel, please email us at membership@gorspa.org. We'd love to connect with you. So now I'd like to share, many of you that have been around the association for a long time are certainly familiar with the many benefits of RSPA and what the community brings, one of which is our signature trade show, Retail Now. We are super excited. That's going to be held July 25th through the 27th in Nashville. Kathy Meteor and I were just in Nashville last week doing our site visit, and boy, is it exciting there. Many of the restrictions have been lifted and registration is off to a fantastic start for our attendees. I would like to take a moment to turn it over to RSPA CEO John Kirk to share a little bit about our progress as we get geared up for the show. John?
Thank you, Ashley. And Ashley's right on the money when she says there's some positive signs so far. In fact, last Thursday, we've got a great announcement from the city of Nashville that as of May 14th, all capacity limitations will be lifted for big events, including conventions like Retail Now. So we're about 80 days out now, and in a pretty good spot considering May 14th is around the corner. So things are looking positive. And then in terms of the demand from the community, there's a lot of positive signs. Ashley's already referenced the registration pace, but we've also seen some really good progress on our exhibit sales. We've got a good chunk of exhibit sales right now. We're ahead of prior year pace. So that's a positive sign. We have more event sponsorships than we've seen in the past, same time, same place. So that's exciting. We've also got a very strong company count, which is always a great indicator, and a very good mix between our VARs and our vendor community. So that's very powerful. And then one more positive sign that we're really excited about, and I think it has a lot to do with what we've all been dealing with in recent months and over the past year, frankly. Many of our vendors are talking to us about holding their community events that is aligned in a manner that's aligned with our event in Nashville. So we've got vendors that either on the front end or the back end of our event are going to bring their communities together. And that's really exciting because they can take advantage of the room block. They can take advantage of the great experience that Retail Now brings as they bring their community together to discuss things that are most important to their business collectively. So a lot of positive signs. We're really excited about it. And, I would just ask you, if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to our Retail Now town hall meeting that's available on demand to our members, it's worth listening to because we received over 30 questions in advance of that town hall dealing with health and safety. Now, many of them were the same questions, so we had about 15 or 16 in the queue going into the event, and then we received questions during the event live, and Ashley and Jim did a great job of sharing where we are with respect to health and safety. So that's something, if you haven't had a chance to listen to, please take a few minutes to do that. It's a session that's worth listening to as you get on the grapevine. And also, we've been doing weekly safety spotlights that are typically less than 2 minutes long and sometimes less than a minute. So you can go back and find those on our website, and you can watch all of them up to this time and really quickly get up to speed on some of the provisions we're putting in place. We look at the event from a very high level. We need three key building blocks. Number one, we need demand. And so far, we're seeing there's great demand from our community for the marketplace that Retail Now provides, and only Retail Now provides the marketplace that we're going to have in Nashville. Number two, we've got to have a philosophy and actions around that philosophy related to health and safety. And last but not least, we have to have good regulations and guidelines from the CDC and from government, and regulations that help us do things in the most safe way possible. And those three things are lining up. And we're going to look for ways to do more than we're asked to do, to create a very safe and healthy environment and a marketplace that our members need. So thank you for being here. And Ashley, thank you. And I'll turn it back over to you. We're looking for a great event in late July, and we're looking for a great event today. So thank you for all you do.
Thanks, John. So without the support of the community and our sponsors, sessions like today or Retail Now and the things that we do throughout the year wouldn't be possible. So we want to recognize our platinum sponsors this year, which are Blue Star and Shift4 Payments. Our gold sponsors are Heartland and ScanSource. And our silver sponsors are Pointy, Star Micronics, and Ingenico. Thank you to our sponsors. And then specific to our W2W, or Women in Technology community, we'd like to thank our sponsors Blue Star, Epson, and Star Micronics. Thank you again for your support. All right. So this will be an open forum, an information sharing discussion. Please note that the views and opinions expressed during this roundtable are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Retail Solutions Providers Association, or the RSPA. Also, we've asked everyone on today's call to avoid those sales pitches and to identify themselves when they do speak for the benefit of our listeners. So to kick off our conversation today, we have three featured guests and our moderator. First, we'd like to welcome Elizabeth DeLosSantos, who is the ISV Business Development Manager for International Bancard, Michelle MacKeith, Vice President of Pinnacle Hospitality, Allie Haskell, Manager in Implementation and Support Services with CVS North Star, and today's moderator, Vanessa Foden, Director of Global Strategy with Intel. So why don't we get started? Vanessa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley and Jim, and good morning, everybody. Really personally excited about this roundup, and I can tell you some of the questions we're going to kick off. I didn't get the answers in advance, so I am just as eager to hear from this fabulous team as much as the rest. So to kick us off, Michelle, I think we'll start with you, and we'll warm up your vocal cords, is, from the channel perspective, what do you think the retail IT channel will look like from now in the next 5 years?
Thanks, Vanessa. I think we're going to continue to evolve at a very fast pace from a technology standpoint. It has been evolving very quickly. COVID definitely helped with that, to help our industries to stay in business best they could during that. And now coming out of it, it's like, how could we have been without those different pieces of technology beforehand? So definitely, I think the technology is going to keep moving at a fast pace. I think the consumer is going to want more and more to be where they can do things from a self-service standpoint. Even if they're in a restaurant and at the table, maybe they want to be able to order for themselves. Also, do some, because of the contactlessness, also to, be able to pay for everything on their own. And that also then that leads to even more and more self-service for the restaurateur, for the hospitality world in particular, which is where we work. I think those things then lead to the restaurateur helping them to continue to bring more to their bottom line, because they will be able to use those tools to help them to turn tables, to help them to maybe have less team members that they'll need on staff because of difficulties with staffing, difficulties with, continuing to have enough people because of self-service that could help. And then from the support standpoint, it will help them to be more, resourceful and to be able to handle things more from a self-service standpoint. So that's kind of, I keep thinking to see things from that perspective.
Wonderful. That was very insightful. And I'm very interested, Elizabeth, to your perspective on this as well, given that, banking years ago invested in ATMs and, already started in the tap and pay and some of these other solutions pre-COVID. Can you share a little bit more on your insights on how you see this progressing from now to the next 5 years?
Absolutely, and I have to agree with Michelle 100%. I think that we are entering a period that not only are we going to have a lot of new technology evolve to optimize operations in the global retail industry, but also we're going to discover existing technology that has been becoming a lot stronger and a lot more user-friendly. And from our perspective, contactless is going to perhaps be king, with more of the consumer globally being less willing to touch a point of sale system, a payment device, a pin pad. I think we're going to see a lot more expanding outside of only payments. Contactless is already huge in Europe, and it's becoming quite a trend in the US. And I think that that's going to translate to other segments of the IT industry. One thing that we can kind of count on with a lot of the technology that is going to be developed in the next 5 years is going to be fully intertwined with consumer behavior changes, purchase patterns, as well as with security and the needs of the retailers.
Yes, wonderful. And, I'd love when we progress, before we transition to the audience, to hear more from you on security. Allie, what are your thoughts from now to the next 5 years for retail IT channel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, along with what Michelle and Elizabeth said with the fast pace and technology growing, I think we're just seeing a shift in the consumers that we're working with. As, people become older, they're spending less, they want to stay home, they're not going out as much. So I think we're going to see a pivot in the way that the brands, not just technology, are going to have to shift. The younger generation is definitely a generation of culture. They want to belong and connect to these retailers as much as they want to be able to connect to their cell phones. So I think that that's going to be a big shift along with the technology and how quickly we're just moving through life.
Wonderful. And actually, you teed us up for the next question. So, Allie, I'm going to stay with you. What technologies on the horizon do you recommend VARs and ISVs investigate?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the pandemic didn't show us anything, online ordering, if you guys aren't investing in it or making that stride to improve it, I definitely see that that's going to be a huge thing. E-commerce is only growing. I think this year it tripled, if not, did more than that. Along with that, I think we're going to see a shift in the type of technology that we're using in stores. I think beacons are going to become a larger technology that we might not have thought about in the past, to track customers' movements in restaurants and in stores, to kind of deliver those targeted information and discounts. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced it, but when I walked into a store, I'll get an alert if I have the app downloaded telling me that there's a discount in aisle 12 for the iPhone that I'm looking to potentially purchase. So using that in social media, I think, is going to be a big shift. And the other one that we've seen is AI technology. I think AI technology is only going to get bigger. It's going to be nice to have more technology, but not necessarily visible technology. I think with people wanting to connect to brands, that they're not going to want to see, the big bulky terminals or technologies that we used to see. So if you could hide the technology behind things that they're used to seeing or things that they appreciate seeing, then I think we're going to be even better off on a technology standpoint.
Wonderful. Great insight, Allie. Elizabeth, would you like to share your thoughts on the recommended VARs and ISVs investigate for technologies?
Absolutely, and it's a very simple answer with kind of a complex response. There's a lot of technology that is coming down the pipe, and it's all going to be pretty much relative to the specific resale segment. Not everything is going to be applicable to every vertical or to every business out there. So I think that as retailers, we need to be very hyper-vigilant of what's out there. I tend to agree with Allie's comments, and these things are very connected. I think the consumer behavior is changing in a way where we want to see things a little more visually. So AR technology is going to come into play, chatbots. If you have purchased anything in the last year and a half, chances are that you have interacted with one of these chatbots. And the benefit to this is you have somebody or something that can quickly answer a question, and the consumer is not going to have to wait until the next day or until your shop opens. Where I see most of the technological growth is going to be in e-commerce. I think e-commerce, although it has been growing over the past 10 years, is going to fully accelerate and is here to stay. So retailers, we need to be really able and willing to adapt to rapid changes and embrace new tools. I think anything that is related to sort of visual and contactless and turning your brick and mortar stores into kind of like showrooms is going to be highly valuable.
Wonderful, thank you. Michelle, would you like to share your insights?
Well, wow, you guys made it hard for me to be the last one to talk about this, but because you're so.
Oh no, you got this, Michelle.
I mean, I think across the board, you know, everybody wants that seamless, user-friendly way to place an order, buy something, and the more visual that it can be, great. The one thing I think that we definitely need to consider from a technology standpoint is no matter what we do, we need to make sure it has that security to it because of the world that we're in right now. So all technology moving forward, whatever the guest is going to use, it needs to also have a high level of security so that you can't have those breaches or those types of things that would happen. So I do think that that's important with whatever technology, whether it be contactless, the QR pay, the ordering, the online ordering, whatever it is, needs to make sure it has that security piece to it.
Yeah, wonderful. And so I want to note, that Michelle, you're the second person to bring up the security piece of that. So when we think about this for our customers and our partners, especially, Elizabeth, you were talking about the e-commerce and the growth, and it's not going anywhere. And, Ali, providing our personal information so that we can get the update that the iPhones are on sale when we walk in the store. I think security is a major portion of that. People want to feel confident with who they're working with and purchases. And it's very important as well for brand protection. So I'm going to move on to the next question for all. And it's, what do you believe in your mind is the most effective change management strategies and tactics? And how have you been utilizing this professional development to help adapt your team? And then Michelle, we'll start off with you since we left you last time.
Okay, so anybody that knows me or knows Pinnacle, we believe in the team and how and really it's about the culture that you have built within your team. And also that you continue to work with the leadership. It's having skills is great, but the behaviors and attitudes that need to be the framework for how you build your team, and that the leaders lead, but they continue to empower and to continue to teach the rest of the team and get them comfortable with whatever's coming down the pike. And I think the biggest behavior or attitude that you need is that the team really embraces change, especially with where we're at today. You need a flexible team. You need them to be nimble, but they need to believe in where the team is going and the leaders and where they're taking them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michelle. And then Ali, what are your thoughts on management strategies and tactics?
I mean, I think Michelle hit it on the head with that. You don't really realize how much the team is impacted when something happens like this. The pandemic definitely showed us that. We sent people home with a day's notice, and then we asked them to continue forward as if nothing changed. So for sure having a team that can pivot like that, that's agile enough to take technology that we've given them and to put it into place and continue the day-to-day organization, like whatever that means. There's always an order to the day. You wake up and you do the same thing, and that hasn't shifted. If anything, it's just going to be with us longer, especially with this. I know for our business, we've even looked at potentially shifting to a 50-50 model of people working in office 50 days and people working out 50 days or 50% of the time. So it's definitely a cultural shift there. But I think leadership is also extremely important in times like this. You have to make sure that you're looking to hire those forward thinking and future thinking leadership and teammates. You definitely want a team that's going to look to the future. What's next? With that being such a big burden right now of knowing and needing to grow your business, needing to understand what's next is kind of the next big thing, in my opinion, as far as leadership and the teammates. You want that forward thinking team that's going to keep just pushing forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ali. And Elizabeth.
I couldn't agree more with Michelle and Ali. I think they are spot on their response to this. The only thing that I'd like to add is just remaining positive, which sometimes is a little difficult when we have, production decline and we're not seeing as many sales. But just remaining positive and instilling that into your team, and sort of implementing simple tactics to help them cope with working from remote or making drastic changes to the way things were before goes a long way.
Yeah, it's definitely a blend of heart and mind as we continue to motivate a team, as we see a continual need for the driving workforce and reduction in some of the labor, and seeing some of the current stats come out in the last few days around this. So really embodying and empowering the team really helps drive the success overall for our channel, and I see our channel as one big family, working together and growing together and being very supportive during the pandemic. So it's been wonderful. Now, we are going to transition here just a moment to open questions and back to Ashley, but I did want to give this wonderful team just another opportunity. If there's any last parting words before we move to Q&A that you would like to share in the audience, with the audience, around this topic that you did not get a chance to. So I'm just going to open the floor just for a moment to all of you, Ali, Michelle, and Elizabeth, and then we'll transfer to Ashley.
The one thing that I wanted to say to all of you out there is, look at your team and who is on your team, and make sure you have those A players, because I feel like even more now than ever, we're gonna need A players that are all in and that are going to be willing to do whatever it takes to continue to get us through whatever technology changes that there are going to be, and helping to service and support that. If you have team members that have been with you for a long time that are unwilling to change, which, you've got people on your team that have been here 10, 15, 20 years, they really need to, you need to be talking to them about adapting and adopting where you're headed, and be clear with that with the team, and that keep forward thinking, and don't keep trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I guess, that's just me, but I just think that the team piece is so vital to where we're headed in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Absolutely, Michelle. I was gonna pretty much echo exactly what you said with that. The team just needs to know we're all there and that we're working for them. So make sure you guys have those right players. Make sure you're staying engaged with them and reaching out to them more often and paying attention to that. I think the more they're connected to you and they're more connected to your business, the easier it is for you to put those new technologies into place and run those successful projects. So I think, like Michelle said, make sure your team's right, make sure leadership is forward thinking, and you'll be fine on the other end of everything.
That's where the strength is. And the last comment that I'd like to add is, To everyone in retail, this is a time to experiment, try new things, implement very simple little tactics one at a time, and just draw on your team for inspiration and think outside the box. Those are the little changes that are going to help us all weather through and grow in the industry within the next 5 years.
Excellent. Thank you so much, all. Now, Ashley, I will transfer back to you for opening up for questions.
Thanks, Vanessa, and thank you to our featured guests. So stick around, though, because I know we've got some questions queued up here. And while we're getting ready for those, a couple of things. Don't forget, save the date. You know, the education that we're having here and the open conversation, these are the types of things that we do at Retail Now. And it's, you know, a great way to network and best practice share and get those new, fresh ideas or those new solutions like Michelle and Allie and Elizabeth and Vanessa were talking about earlier. Again, thank you to our sponsors, our platinum sponsors, Blue Star and Shift4 Payments, our gold sponsors, Heartland and ScanSource, and then our silver sponsors, Pointy, Star Micronics, and Ingenico. And just before we get into some of the audience questions, and I know Chris has some of those coming in here, Vanessa, you know, you were moderating, but I'm curious to know, and I think it would be great for the audience to hear, what do you think the retail IT channel will look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I have to say, because of the amazing panelists you selected, you know, I agree with all of them on what we're going to foresee in the future. I believe our support is going to be a blend of buy online, pick up in store, because someone doesn't want to wait for the shipment. There's going to be a big shift, or I should say, because there's always been a shift, but a continuing shift to e-commerce. But also, I'm a strong believer that you know, retail is not in any way dead, the traditional stores. I can tell you from personal experience, you know, going out and picking up things because I don't want to wait. People are out there, they want to dine, they want to interact, and of course always in safe manners, but it is natural for people to want to be around other people. So we are going to continue to see those blends. And it'll be interesting because, you know, we see that traditional malls, some of the malls, or at least in my area, I live in Arizona, for those that do not know that, and we've seen some traditional malls close, or, you know, a major anchor of a mall like a Nordstrom leave the mall, and then to see those type of scenarios adapt. But what's getting in place of those are more of these entertainment type spaces. So you come, you shop, and you dine, and there's this full engagement. And that was kicking off pre-COVID, and now we're seeing those start to evolve again as that natural behavior that people do want to be around each other. The e-commerce is going to continue. When we look at, I was reading about Uber this morning, you know, they just shifted, as we all do, we adapt, right? So they shifted to food delivery. And now it's, you know, now they're driving for actually getting people from point A to B is picking up again. And I think that's going to be the nature of it all. I do want to highlight again, and I know I hit on it as well as, very importantly, you know, the team did, is the security around that. And that's really important. And with all of our solutions we provide, you know, even if we don't personally provide the security, we should have, you know, some ideas on how we can support secure environments around solutions or in any of our supporting natures that we provide. So those are some of my highlights. Again, I think it was summarized really well already by the team.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and absolutely, you know, we can adapt quickly. We want to still have that people interaction, and at the end of the day, we need to know that it's in a safe way too, from a security standpoint. So, thank you for that, Vanessa. Now, real quick, don't forget to stick around for the folks on the call for the book giveaway. We'll be announcing that shortly. So now we're going to open it for open discussion. Happy to start anywhere the group would like. If it's a question, idea, comment, thought, ask it through the GoToWebinar platform, and then we will call on you and unmute you. And it looks like we have our first question is from Ben Williams. So Ben, we'll go ahead and unmute you if you can share with us where your company and share your question, thought, or idea. Can you hear us, Ben? Oh, Ben, it looks like you're on mute, so you just got to hit the little red button there to unmute yourself. Oh, Ben, are you able to hear us? All right, I think we'll come back to Ben here. Let me see if I can, oh, here it is. Ben, so Ben is asking, are others being hit with price increases and how are they reacting? We got hikes with, or excuse me, from 4 suppliers just yesterday. So would anybody on the panel like to weigh in on that, or from our discussion leaders? Michelle, I'll call on you because, or you or Allie being in the VAR reseller role, is that something that you're seeing or something that you would like to weigh in on?
I am seeing some increases, but not really a lot. I mean, the biggest thing that we're seeing is just more supply delays, and you know, how to work with that with some of our products.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the same things on our side, Michelle. We're seeing supply issues more than price increases. But Ben, I would challenge you, if you're seeing those price increases, to potentially look at the partners you're working with, and maybe there's someone else out there that is better, you know, fitted for your needs and what you're looking for, and that is willing to work with you on those prices.
Right, I agree.
And then on the other side of it, if you really are seeing a price increase on the partner side, maybe you need to reevaluate the value that you're providing to your customers, and maybe it's time for you to look at your rates as well to kind of offset those costs.
Got it. No, that's you know, great advice and great insight for sure. And Ben, if we do have the opportunity to get you off of mute there, we would love to have you weigh in, or if you have a follow-up question. All right, looks like we have another question from Bill Nolf. Bill, we're going to go ahead and unmute you, and if you can let us know where you're calling from, and then go ahead and ask your question or share your insights. Bill?
Hi, Bill Nolf with head of sales for Microtouch, which we're new into the RSPA family. New with this company, but I've been involved.
We're excited
with
to have
RSPA.
you here, Bill.
Okay. And anyway, I just wanted to weigh in from a manufacturing standpoint about price increases. There is a lot of that going on. There is a lot of shortages. A lot of the raw suppliers right now have the advantage that there is products available. However, it's almost like a bidding war. So you can go bid to get, like in our business, LCD panels are part of our touch solutions. You can get them, but you're going to have to pay more. Therefore, some of the price increases that people are seeing, they're probably justified. But I think back to what, I forget which one of your panel members made the statement, you might want to evaluate your supplier, your partner, your solution provider. I think you want to be careful that I don't think people are taking advantage necessarily, but I do think you can be a little bit more thorough with your supply chain and your partners.
Thanks, Bill. That's a great insight for sure, and thank you for sharing with the group. All right, it looks like we have another question coming in on the chat. And this is for our discussion leaders or featured guests. What are the professional development activities your team has followed, and what actions have you taken to help your team grow and adapt? So, Michelle, I'll bounce this one to you first because I know that you guys are very passionate about your people at Pinnacle.
Can you repeat the beginning part of the question?
Yes. What are the professional development activities that your team has followed?
Okay. To start with our leadership team, we actually we intentionally have leadership boot camps. We also have leadership meeting once a month, and we are teaching about how to lead. I think sometimes we, I mean, many of us put people in a manager role or leadership role and just think they know what they're supposed to do, and then we wonder why they fail. So we actually teach and talk about it, and our leadership is based off of the L5, John Maxwell L5 leadership, and we started there, and then we just kept evolving it. And then we also are teaching our team on what is a team of excellence, which is based on looking at the way Steve Jobs talked about building his team. If you ever watched the Lost Interview, it's a great thing to watch. And it doesn't mean perfection. It just means that you're expecting everyone to be the best they can be, and the leadership helping them to get there. And so we're very intentional about it.
That's awesome, Michelle. And I know you guys do a great job of lifting your team up and encouraging them, as you indicated earlier, and that's key for sure from a team standpoint. Allie, anything that you would like to add from the CBS team and what you guys are doing to include, encourage that professional development and activities that you guys are following?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're big on the team too. I'm big on personal growth personally, so I enjoy when the team has their own ideas for what they'd like to grow into. So I'm big on letting the team go out and find certifications and things that they're interested in, and we do a reimbursement thing. So they'll go out and they'll pay for a certification or something that they're interested in. And once they pass it, we will pay it back to them so that they, they're invested in it and that they want that personal growth as well as that professional growth that they're seeking it. So we're big on that. And then like Michelle said, on the management side, our executive team has been really pushing our middle management team to just better ourselves and to focus on our teams more, and to really push us to just be better leaders, thinking of our people even more throughout everything.
No, that's great. And that personal growth and giving them that kind of that say-so, right? And let them help guide you, right? So I think that's fantastic. Thanks, Allie. All right. Let's see. Do we have any more questions coming in? Okay. Couple of others that would like to touch on, and I'm going to touch on a few here. So what are your most effective change management strategies and tactics? So I'll open that to the group. Vanessa, would you like to weigh in on this one?
Sure, Ashley, absolutely. It's interesting because what we look at is, I understand that when people see Intel, they see 112,000 people, but when we actually look at our group focused on this area, if we include our partners and engineers, it's really around 400 or less. And when we look at what does it look like from a change managed strategy, we offer quite a bit of training, but else what we do is in support of employees and managers is we will do some independent studies. So right now, this would be great in another few weeks, because right now what we're doing is profile of understanding different manager styles. And I know there's so many tools that do that, but it's really important for managers to understand where they are and what phase of development they're in, to continue to support them. Because if we're supporting how teams grow and develop, then they're supporting the future leaders as well, or up and coming future leaders that we have within the organization. and then that allows for flexibility as the team evolves. So as I said, we're in the middle of, you know, testing out a new personality assessment, and always just looking for new opportunities and ways to grow the team. I would say outside of that, I think there's also a personal aspect to that. And, you know, earlier I had noted, you know, there was a great deal of reference to what I would say heart and mind, meaning we need to have that balance. We have, you know, within our very small team of, you know, 4 focused on strategy, we had 2 losses to COVID, and we need to be able to adapt and understand. And that's a whole nother level of training and that more personal feel that, you know, we're not always prepared for, but it's part of that change of life that happens. And I think in a normal situation, it wouldn't have happened so rapidly, especially in such a small team. But as we evolve, we see that, and how managers cope with that is very important as well to retention, which, going back to my reference on, you know, concerns in the job market and, you know, keeping the best talent, because it's a hyper competitive environment right now. That's very important to really truly have that blend of heart and mind.
Thanks, Vanessa. And I think that's really important. And I really like the way you frame that up, of having that heart and mind. It's really important to have that careful balance. I'm going to throw out a question to the audience to get some response from you guys out there that are listening in. One of the questions is, you know, how have you utilized professional development to help your team adapt to our industry's ever-changing landscape, right? You know, we've talked about all the different pivots and the things that we've had to do, and I'm curious to hear, you know, what your perspective is on that. And while we're waiting for those questions to come in, we do have a question that's coming in from Rose Eliff. Rose, we're going to go ahead and take you off of mute.
Hi there.
Hi, Rose.
Hi, I'm Rose Eliff, and I'm also with CBS, like Allie. Hi, Allie. The question question that I had was, American baby boomers hold an estimated $30 trillion in wealth, and they enjoy 70% of discretionary income in the U.S. per Nielsen. So, and it's a relatively healthy and active group. As boomers are aging, they're maintaining their health, they're maintaining their wealth, and they're spending more money on restaurants. I mean, I'm a boomer, and I know that the boomers I know, we're restaurant people. You know, we go into restaurants, and it's a valuable market that I think sometimes restaurants don't always focus on. So how can IT, how can technology be used better, do you think, in attracting the valuable market that the boomers represent?
That's a great question. I'll let our featured guests weigh in on that question. Thank you, Rose.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth, would you like to weigh in on that one?
Yes, I love the question, Rose, because I think it's one of those things that the whole world can sort of seems not to put a lot of attention, sort of like the older adults. But you guys have an enormous shopping power, and through the pandemic, we have seen a huge shift from older folks, not only dining, but also shopping online. And the perception that we had that perhaps we only have sort of like the younger group that was happy to use technology to mobilize life is a thing of the past. And I think the new technology, the new IT that is developed in the next 5 years is going to have to take under account making things a lot more user-friendly and easy for the older folks to sort of digest. And by this, I don't mean to make it sort of dummy-proof, just to make it a little more inviting. I'll give you an example. My parents are in their 80s and they shop online. And one of the reasons why they shop online is because the pandemic, and also it's also convenient. But there's always a perception that older folks really don't understand technology, and they prefer to use apps and websites that don't kind of have that stigma. I think that we need to sort of remove that sort of old perception and just make all the IT a lot more inclusive, not only marketed and targeted for the younger crowds, but also for the older adults.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and thank you, Rose, for the question. Are there any other thoughts from the panel that you'd like to add to what Elizabeth had shared?
I mean, I think Elizabeth spoke to it. The older generations like to feel like they're tech savvy, whether they are or whether they're not. I can group my mom into that as well. She loves to use technology, and she's more willing to use technology than even I am when it comes to purchases and using loyalty. So I think that making sure that they know that they're being targeted. I think if you look at a lot of ads these days, they're definitely targeted towards the millennials or the younger generation. So I think just knowing that there's other generations out there that are using that technology and that want to use that technology is something we all probably need to be a little bit more conscious of.
I agree, Ali, and I think that's in the big responsibility of the marketing and digital industry to sort of be more inclusive of that generation.
Absolutely.
In the ads, just to sort of remove that stigma, because right now that's the generation that it's buying and purchasing and spending their money and keeping the industry going.
Absolutely, I agree.
Wow, great insights, and yes, I agree. Gotta keep it open for sure. Couple of other questions that we have here, and I'm going to pivot a little bit from what we see on the screen. You know, I know we've talked a lot about technology and new verticals and things like that. I'm curious to know from our featured guests, and if the audience would like to weigh in as well. Are there emerging niche verticals or markets that you think are worth looking into? So what are some of the things that you think are going to be outside of the norm, maybe, that you haven't taken a look at that are quickly gaining traction?
I think something that we're looking at as a business and some of our partners is the beacon technology. I know it's been around for a while and not everyone is necessarily using it, but I think the beacon technology and the data that it's going to be able to provide people is going to be increasing as that technology continues to increase. So I would recommend looking into that because you can do so many things with beacons as far as targeting the people that are in places. You can tell the traffic that they're using, the items they're looking at more. So I think beacon is definitely one of those niche markets that people will be investigating more and more in the coming years.
Yeah, no, that's great insight. And actually, I was just listening to Jeremy Julian's podcast on Friday, and that was one of the topics on it was, you know, we want that, you know, as much as we say we don't want that technology to watch us or to report on us, we want that, right? We want people to know what we want before we even know we want it sometimes. So that's great insight, Ali. Any other thoughts around emerging vertical markets from the group?
So this is Vanessa, and this isn't specific to any market, but more into how we pay. And I know it's funny, and this, by the way, I think as well is a generational impact, but there is a trend right now showing that when, you know, cryptocurrency type stock increases, traditional stock, especially in retail space, decreases because of so many day traders are younger that they're seeing the fluctuation. But also, you know, what we're seeing is that interest. And I know we had, you know, briefly on our technical team, and hopefully they come back in at some point, you know, an expert looking overall blockchain, and really cryptocurrency is a part of the blockchain technology. So when we think of blockchain, you know, it could be, you know, from farm to table to restaurants, or there were some really cool things happening at H&M, again, at a high level, but where they're, you know, recycling clothes, where you can bring recycled clothes and then pick new patterns, and it's actually happening near real time where you're picking new clothes from recycled clothing. So, you know, again, watching that trend, it's that farm to table, but, you know, the life, if you will, of clothing and products. So I think we'll continue to see that tech trend in blockchain, but very importantly is we're also going to see that continual interest in cryptocurrency. And I think this is generational, where I think the younger generation, or at least the younger generation folks that I know, you know, they're very accepting of potential and usage of cryptocurrency. So I think that's just something we could keep in mind, and I think that goes across all of our industries that we think about, you know, from groceries to our traditional retail environment to, you know, going out and grabbing a bite to eat in a restaurant.
Yes, definitely trending for sure, and you know, always looking at those new markets to start tapping into, because it'll be here before you know it if it isn't already, right? Always a changing landscape. Additional thoughts around some of those emergent verticals or markets? Michelle, I'll pivot to you, because I know you guys certainly focus in the hospitality space. Are there specific niche verticals that you guys think are on the horizon that we should share with the audience?
You know, I've been sitting here thinking, I think everybody's been giving great points about different technology that we should be looking at. What I'm also thinking about is the consumer, like as a personal consumer, but also, you know, for that restaurant owner, for that, you know, small retail owner. I think they're going to want more and more plug and play, easy to use. I mean, will we get to the point where you just order your point of sale system online, you know, and it gets delivered to you and it's plug and play? I know probably for some of us that makes us like, you know, do we really want to go there? But I think the consumer does want that. And I think that we all can still be, as, you know, resellers and, you know, and vendors, there's still for all of us to stay in business, but to make it easier for that restaurateur, for that owner, to get what they want and make it easy. And I think that we're gonna see more and more of that.
No, absolutely. What you want, when you want it, and right away, right? Definitely not going away. Awesome. Again, great insights and great knowledge being shared on this call. I'll wrap up with one last thing, and I know, Allie, we touched on this earlier around professional development and ways to access it. If we could share some specifics in just a quick, 30-second from each of you, what are some tools that you guys are recommending that your teams take a look at from a professional development standpoint? So Michelle, we'll start with you, and then we'll go around the group.
Well, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I like Allie, I do, and everyone on the panel here, we believe in personal development and taking ownership of what, where do you want to be in your career, and how can we help you get there? And so some of the tools that we utilize are more, it's just more working on goals that, where do you want to be, and what's your why of even being here? Do you believe in what you're doing, and what are the top 3 things you want to accomplish? And then we help them to come up with strategies to get there. And we do work off of the 5 dysfunctions of a team. We talk about that. We train them on that, the things that are important with the team, with the trust and communication. And then also we work off of the L5 leadership.
That's awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Elizabeth, do you have a go-to in terms of professional development, a recommendation or 2 that you would want to share with the group?
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, it's sort of a special, different case. We all know that happy employees produce double and triple the amount. So we have been putting simple tactics in place to just sort of help everybody feel more included and present, with having to basically drop and work remote 100% of the time, it's a little bit difficult for employees sometimes to feel connected. We have a wonderful marketing team that has been pretty diligent into organizing weekly events where groups have a cyber meeting and share different things, celebrating simple things like anniversaries and birthdays, having your leadership schedule a monthly meeting with the whole company just to sort of catch up and to make it less about business and more about the personal human touch to make sure that we are all energized, full of hope, and also devoting our time to personal development and training. One of the things that I personally do is I share with my team past courses that I have taken in the past. And it's an opportunity to just not only exercise what I learned, but also help them learn something new without having them incur into any expenses. And also for them to teach me what they learn from me and help me improve my own skills.
That's great, Elizabeth, and I think that's right on target with, you know, what Michelle and Allie and Vanessa have shared, and some of the keywords that I've written down while we were talking today are things like having that balance of heart and mind, right? Having reward built in and incentive and knowing that you care, you know, giving your team that ability to be able to, you know, take control of their own development, right? And to be able to share with each other and learn from each other, you know, just like we're all doing today. I know that we're getting short on time. Really appreciate everyone joining us today. One last thing that we did not touch on earlier, but I'm sure everyone has probably, if you're an RSPA member, seen, we just launched our Accelerate e-learning platform on Saturday, actually, of this past week, and it is off to a great start. But there are a ton of professional development courses out there that are accessible to members and all of their employees. So if you're interested, let us know. You can reach out to me or anybody on the team, and we're happy to help, you know, get you started on that. Again, a big thank you to our W2W community sponsors, Blue Star, Epson, and STAR, especially our in addition, our annual sponsors, our platinum sponsors are Blue Star and Shift4 Payments, gold sponsors Heartland and ScanSource, and then, of course, our silver sponsors Pointy, Star Micronics, and Ingenico. Last but not least, don't forget, we want to see everybody at Retail Now 2021 in Nashville. We are excited to be there, and I know so many in the community are, as well as new folks that are joining every day. So looking forward to seeing you there. And before we wrap up, I would like to announce our book giveaway is to Barbara Lewis with Delaware Valley Registers. So Barbara, we will coordinate with you after the call and get that book sent out to you. That's Multipliers, How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter by Liz Wiseman. Thank you again for spending the hour with us. I know we went a little over. Really appreciate the continued support and participation. And of course, thank you to our featured guests. You all have been fantastic, and then, you know, we appreciate your willingness to share. So thank you again to Elizabeth, Allie, Michelle, and Vanessa. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.